Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Corey's here hitting buttons, Elijah showed up, Dave, Dave's in the building eating honey buns. We got all sorts of cool stuff going on here up until 3 here on the game.
I really wish we had the round of applause sounder because Terry Ford has shown up for the beginning of the show.
How about me? How about me being on time? Look at that.
Insane.
Well, I felt bad because yesterday I didn't get here till about 10 after. So I figure I do my best to get here actually on time. So those guys who dropped the bets on our text line.
They're out of luck today.
Yep. The drinking game, no shots today. No shots today. All right, so we're going to hang here till 3. Big series starts tonight, obviously. I know it's for TV, but does ESPN, and they don't care. Does Disney? No, they don't care. Understand that you're going to start a game at 8 o'clock tonight featuring 2 teams, and it could legitimately be 30-29.
Yeah.
This game could be going on when we're starting the morning show.
It could be.
Tomorrow.
Funny thing, Georgia and Clemson actually played with 16, 17 innings a couple weeks ago. So Georgia's no stranger to playing late into the night. And, an 8 o'clock first pitch with 2 teams that are going to score anywhere between 7 to 10 runs. That does not translate to a tight, quick game like we saw the other night.
No. This one might run over midnight.
Maybe.
Tonight. It's going to be nuts. So that starts tonight, 7:45 pregame, 8 o'clock first pitch here in Columbia, 107.5 the game, and our Myrtle Beach affiliate at 100.3 the game. And, Mark Kingston, we're going to get to a bunch of Kingston cuts, and also Shane Beamer talked in Charleston, so we got some welcome home there. And we're going to have a bunch of that in the first hour of the show. Kingston, if they haven't heard it, grab the cut of pitching to Charlie Condon pretty quick. This might be Kingston's best answer of the year.
And to preface this, I forget who asked the question. I think it might have been Cloninger, but I'm sure he was expecting some kind of thorough analysis, some kind of in-depth, coach type of answer on all right, here's what we're going to do, here's our strategy, and, well, he just gave us something short and sweet.
You throw the ball to the backstop and make sure he doesn't steal second base. How about that?
I love that. That's so good. Basically, we ain't going to throw a strike.
Yeah.
And if he wants to swing at it,
if he wants to get on the base and run and have somebody knock him in, that's one thing. But we're not going to, I bring up the Barry Bonds getting walked with the bases loaded. You might actually take that chance tonight with a guy like him. He's hit a home run in the past 7 games. He's on an 18-game hitting streak, has the most home runs of anybody in the country. Going to be the number 1 pick in the draft here in a couple months. Dude's a monster.
He is on a heater like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And look, Georgia's really good up and down. We went over this yesterday. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got, what would we come up with, 8 guys with OPS of over 900.
Oh, it's not
These
just
guys
him.
can rake.
It's not just him. And that's the key to this whole weekend. He's going to get his.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to score his runs, going to get his hits and all that kind of stuff, unless you just walk him every time. It's make sure the other 8 guys don't kill you.
To me, I almost look at it this way. Because that lineup is so deep, it's not like I'm just going to point to first base. But I'm not throwing him too many strikes.
No.
If he's going to hit stuff, he's going to hit stuff out of the zone. It'd be like somebody sent me the old the video clip of Vladimir Guerrero hitting the pitch that bounced against my Orioles.
Uh-huh.
It was like cricket, and he hit it for. By the way, he got a base knock out of it into short left field. So that's Charlie. Charlie, you want to hit one hoppers?
Sure.
You want to hit balls 5 feet out of the zone? Go get him, bub. Remember they were talking about Ethan Petrie got 4 strikes in the Arkansas series to swing at?
Yep.
That's 4 more than Condon gets this weekend.
I would say so.
Now, again, if he wants to swing the lumber at a lot of pitches out of the zone, go get him. Get yourself out all weekend, Chief. But I don't know if I would just intentionally put him on the bags. Sometimes you might have to. But that lineup is so deep, and that's the other key, and you kind of went near it. You've got to do a good job against the other guys because if you do want to pitch around Condon, you want to have the ability to have that flexibility. But if the other guys are killing you, there might not be a place to put Condon.
Sure.
I mean, you're joking about when Buck Showalter, when he was a manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded. By the way, it did work.
Yeah, it did.
It worked. I think that was Buck's answer in the postgame.
One run is better than 4.
Yeah, I think Buck said sort of like, well, we didn't want him hitting a grand slam. We like you said, 1 run's better than giving up 4, and then Buck looked up, and by the way, it worked.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you might have some coaching moments in this series when it comes to what you're going to do with Condon. But like we said yesterday, this is not a one-man wrecking crew. This lineup is deep with good hitters. Now, none of these dudes are Condon. No one is right now. It's ridiculous. Those numbers are freakishly ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's almost cartoon-like, his numbers. Remember that old cartoon when we were kids? The dude who hit the ball and the ball screamed in pain?
Mm-hmm.
That's Condon.
Yeah, pretty much.
The ball's like, ah! But they have other guys that can beat you. It's a very deep lineup. So it's going to be very interesting this weekend, the situations when Condon is coming up. And there might be times you might have to pitch to him, Tyler, even though you don't want to.
Sure.
All you do is duck and cover. But if I can get away with just not throwing him strikes, and if he wants to take the walk, take the walk. But it's going to be fun to watch how Mark Kingston and Coach Williams and those guys navigate Condon's at bats. Because again, it's going to be fluid because the game is fluid. It's not as easy as say just don't get me, just walk him every time.
Right.
Well, sometimes you can't. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But no, the worst thing is if this guy is doing damage with runners on base. If he hits a solo bomb too, unless it's tie game in the 9th inning, but if he hits a solo bomb in the 3rd inning and the score is whatever at that point, you go like this. Phew! But the last thing you want is him doing damage with 3-run homers, things of that nature where they're really putting crooked numbers up.
Right.
But again, just once we went over this yesterday, this is a lineup filled with guys who can hurt you. It's not just one dude doing all the damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their numbers across the board, and I think Tennessee may have actually jumped them after their midweek game the other day. But one of the top batting averages in the league, one of the best on base percentages, slugging percentages, all that kind of stuff. So they're going to test this pitching staff tonight. And the point that you and I brought up yesterday, if your 3 starters this weekend are having a collective of 5 innings work total, you're not winning this series.
No, because you got away with it against Missouri. And obviously, Missouri nowhere near the offensive machine that Georgia is.
Right.
And you're going to get probably the same pitching that's been stacked here for the last so many weeks. We'll get Roman Kimball opening. Ty Good will take the ball after Kimball goes as far as he can.
I love the mystery that we get every single week. Like, ooh, wonder who that Sunday starter is going to be, and we know more often than not it's going to be Dylan Eskew, unless you just have to burn him on Friday night or something.
Should we give him a new jersey that says TBA on the back?
Maybe so.
Just
got to become that guy.
Just for the heck of it. So that's kind of the pitching matchup this weekend. And, the starting pitching struggled against Missouri. It's had a little bit of, Eli Jones has had some issues his last 2 outings because he got roughed up by Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jones, it's location, right, and the sinker. If Jones can, if he can get ahead in counts, throw that sinker, get a lot of ground balls, because he doesn't have electric stuff outside of that sinker.
He doesn't, and we know that with Eli Jones, he's going to give up some hits. He's going to let guys get on base. He needs good, competent defense behind him, which is something, there were some struggles in that Missouri game, as well that certainly didn't help him out. And then he gave up the back-to-back home runs that ended up kind of being the end for him there. So again, this is a lineup that hits the ball really well. They're going to get on base. They're going to get hits. You just got to be able to manage it. And obviously on the other side of things, your offense got to be able to outscore them when it's all said and done, which the run they've been on here as of late, scoring 7, 8, 9 runs a game, that's great. That's what you're going to need to win.
Yeah, and Georgia's pitching has gotten better. It's not the strength of the team, though.
Right.
They have starting pitchers you can get. There's some depth issues with injury and clouds around, doctoring baseballs, and who knows how everything's going to go.
That has not come up since the A&M series, and as far as I know, Christian Maragna is cleared to play for this weekend. But like I said yesterday, keep an eye on him in the bullpen. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, have him arachnocam. Follow this dude everywhere. Check them all the time. Check them for foreign substances. So Georgia, it's not their pitching is not carrying them to being a top 10 RPI team. It's their offense.
Right.
So this should be a lot of high-scoring games. So you know what's going to happen, right? 2-1, 2-1, 3-2. You know how this goes.
Yeah, typically.
We sit here and blather on about offense and how these games could last for hours, and we'll get 3 pitchers' duels.
No, what's going to happen is that tonight's game, given the fact that it's the late start, that's going to be the one that lasts 3 hours and 45 minutes, and we're up until midnight, and all that kind of stuff. And then tomorrow, basically mid-afternoon, 5:30 first pitch, that'll be the 2.5 hour 2-1 game. And then Saturday, when everybody has all the time in the world, that'll be a 2-hour game.
Oh yeah, you might be right. Tonight will be the one. Tonight will be the slog. Because nobody wants a slog on a Thursday night when the game starts at 8. How many people are going to be like this tonight? Oh, it's 11:30 and it's in the 5th inning, but I got to go to bed. I really got to go to bed.
Hey, if it's 11:30, we're still in the 5th inning, I'd probably go to bed too.
Yeah, Terrell check out around that time too.
You know what? I can read the box score in the morning.
Yep. All right, so that is tonight. Everything gets underway again, 7:45. Our coverage starts here in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. South Carolina, Georgia. It's on your home field. It's in your barn. Take 2 out of 3.
Yeah. Simple.
Take 2 out of 3. Again, Georgia's good. A lot of metrics. They're just as good as you, but it's in your home ballpark. You got to take 2 out of 3, and then we'll see where everything lands in Knoxville when you travel to face Tennessee.
Speaking of which, we have one more pair of tickets to give away for this game.
Oh, well, why don't we do it now?
Our guy, Dreamy Josh, informed me a little bit earlier. I gave away 2 in the last hour, so I have one more pair. And
Dreamy Josh didn't print these out. They're actual tickets that he got actually from South Carolina, so they're real. They're good.
That is right.
Let's do it. We have so many tickets. It's ticket-a-palooza around here.
I've given away so many tickets today, I've lost count.
Well, we'll be giving away more tomorrow.
I know.
By the way, how's your NASCAR trivia treating you?
Everybody's gotten the answers pretty quickly. So
nice.
It's going good so far.
Did you know Jens?
I did.
Who hosted Saturday Night Live? Did you know right away?
Oh, I knew right away. Yeah. I need to step up the level of the questions.
Oh, you making them too easy?
Yeah, I'm making them too easy.
What was one? Let me see. Go ahead. Fire me. I didn't get a chance to hear one today.
So at the end of the last hour, I said, what is the geographical feature around the track that resulted in it being egg-shaped instead of a true oval? You want to take a guess?
Is that Darlington?
Yes.
Well, that's the they have the fishing pond or whatever,
fishing
right?
Pond, that's right. Out of South
Look at me. Look at me knowing my NASCAR trivia.
There you go.
I didn't know that before I got here.
Now you do.
Right.
Now you do.
I learned it when I first got here. All right, so we'll get back in here. Shane Beamer talking. Shane Beamer for you know what? For a guy that spring ball goes, and then a lot of times the head coaches disappear a little bit. Shane's been front and center with these tours.
He's doing a welcome home tour like every single day, it seems like.
And I also want to talk about this because I think it's really cool. And Shane's not the only one that does this, but he's hanging out with the Kansas City Chiefs.
He is.
Because I like these coaches who go and try to learn. I like when pro coaches come to colleges.
Sure.
And go, man, let's go over some of the college stuff you guys do, offense, defense, whatever. Maybe I can apply some of this to my NFL system. Just like I like Shane. Look, if I'm going to go somewhere and hang out with an NFL team,
why not the best?
Pretty good idea with the one that's won 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years.
By the way,
or 5 years.
You going to go caller number 5 for these tickets?
I think caller number 5 right now.
All right,
803-404-6100. Give us a ring if you want to go. That's for tonight?
Tonight, yes.
All right, this is tonight.
Late one.
It's tonight, so be ready for that.
The rain is supposed to stop before 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock first pitch. 803-404-6100. Give us a call. Whatever caller Tyler said, we're going to do that next. Halftime show, some Shane Beamer. Another welcome home. We'll hear Shane's comments about many things next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. We talk about this all the time. We're getting older, us guys. And things just aren't clicking like they used to. Whether it's sleep, workouts, your memory, driving your life, whatever drive, you're just not driving anymore. It could be something really easy like low testosterone. That could be it. That's something you can definitely improve upon. But there's one way to find out, one way to check the box. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Just make that call. It's a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. Tell them your story. If they think it could be low T, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low testosterone, they will put you on a program specifically designed for you, not for Frank Thomas or Doug Flutie, for you to get you feeling like you again. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Give them a call. Go find out what's up. Halftime show. We're cooking till 3 here on the Game in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. Appreciate you hanging around with us. At some point, according to our meteorologist, Tyler Head, this wonderful weather will clear out, and we should be good for baseball tonight as South Carolina and Georgia will go at it. Again, you can hear it right here in Columbia and also Myrtle Beach. Coverage starts at 7:45. Shane Beamer, welcome home in Charleston. Shane, it's funny that a lot of the questions obviously go down the same road, right?
Sure. There's only so many things you can ask him at this point in time.
Right. And I look, beat reporting, look, there's tougher jobs in the world. It's not tarring a roof. You know, it's not digging a ditch.
Right.
But when you're a beat writer today and you're constantly looking for content all the time, and Shane, God love him, is helping you out by doing all these welcome homes, right?
Because not every coach is that generous.
No, and he answers questions and he does all this stuff with the media. Shane gets the media. That's one thing I totally give him props for is he gets the media. He gets how important it is for him to use the media in recruiting.
Yes.
And Shane out there again answering questions, a lot of them the same questions he's been getting for a while. And remember, Shane came out the other day at Welcome Home in Florence and said that Lenore Sellers is a starting quarterback coming out of the spring. So Shane was asked about that again at the Charleston Welcome Home, and here's Shane expanding on what he said in Florence about Lenore Sellers.
Pete, every day, in our program, and my conversation with Lenore was, coming out of spring practice, you're our starting quarterback, and now I expect you to continue to do the things this summer, just like I expect our Kai Kroger at punter to continue to do those things, and Debo Williams at linebacker, where no one's ever content or complacent, and I know Lenore isn't. And I told Robbie too. I called Robbie on Monday night and reiterated to him again, we're continuing to compete throughout the summer, and when we get to the first game, the guys that give us the best chance to win the football game are the ones that are going to be out there playing. But we've got a handful of really talented quarterbacks, and eager to watch those guys along with our other players continue to develop this summer.
So basically, it's like, look, man, you're the starting quarterback right now. Handle your business. Continue to keep doing what you've been doing to become the starting quarterback. Don't go back and go, I'm the starting quarterback. Off to the Vista, baby. I don't need no stinking work. I'm the starting quarterback.
Which, from everything that we know about Lenore Sellers up to this point, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Nope. Seems to be a smart kid, good head on his shoulders. I don't think he's going to go off and, be stupid now that he's been named the starting quarterback and regress over the course of the next couple months. I think he'll be fine. I think, like I said, with a lot of confidence, he'll take the first snap against Old Dominion. And I've said, if he plays terrible after that and throwing picks and fumbling left and right, then okay, we can have a different conversation. But until then, it's his job to lose.
Yeah, from everything you've heard, he's a mature guy. He gets it. He understands, the whole thing regarding being a quarterback. Because today, look, it's different. You read those stories like Joe Namath. Joe Namath is out. Joe Namath comes back from partying, tells a supermodel, stand here on the sideline, I got to go play football. And the great stories of 1950s quarterback Bobby Lane of the Detroit Lions. That dude had a bottle of whiskey on the sidelines.
Oh, Ken Stabler went out and partied every single night, and if he woke up in the morning, he was good to play.
Right, and if he was close enough to the stadium. Those days are done. If
he remembered his name.
Right. He stumbles out. I play for one of these teams. I don't know which one. But those days are done, man. The quarterback position has become too important, and on a professional level, you invested too much money. You can't have that anymore.
Right.
You just can't. You've got to be first guy, last guy. You've got to be a leader, and you've got to carry yourself in a way that you're the guy and you're the dude, and the players, no matter how you lead or motivate or whatever, players have to respect you and buy into you that you're the guy, right? That's the way this goes now.
Right.
And the biggest part of that is handling your business. Remember we talked about this yesterday about, when you're early 20s and you're a professional athlete, there's things that come with that are great, and things that come with that you're looked at differently than every other 22-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Being a quarterback is the same thing now. You want to be the quarterback? Well, guess what? There's a lot of good that comes with that. But now there's this R word that nobody likes, responsibility.
That's right.
You got responsibility as a quarterback. And you can't go be a goof. and be the guy
Right.
that you need. Look at all the successful quarterbacks on a professional level. You don't have goofs.
Well, those goofs don't last long.
They don't. And going to that point, Johnny Manziel was a goof.
And
His incredible physical skills helped him in a short period of time, right?
Yeah, where's he now?
Yeah, exactly. John Boy 6715 is telling him what plays to call.
Run a jet sweep.
So you got to be able to handle your business, and you got to be responsible, and you got to be mature when you take the reins if you want to be a long-term starting quarterback on a high level. All right, Shane, also, Drew Tuazama, transferring out of South Carolina, defensive lineman, came in from UAB, had 5 sacks the year before he came in from UAB.
Not a bad year.
The hope was he would bring some pass rush and some heat. Didn't turn out that way. Old Drew's fallen down the depth chart, announcing that he's transferring. Here's Shane Beamer talking about the Tuazama transfer.
Transfer window is a little bit different after you graduated, so he's able to. Those are some things that I thought during spring practice were probably trending in that direction. Again, it's a situation where good player that we were excited about, still are excited about, that just wanted the opportunity, I think, to play a little bit more. And he's at a position between he's worked at the edge position and the tackle position since he's been here been in Columbia, and that's a position that we brought in some really good players either from high school recruiting or the transfer portal since January. And he's in the mix with a lot of other guys at that position. I think from Drew's standpoint, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he just felt like, I got a year to play football or another opportunity here in front of me. I want to go somewhere where my role's a little bit more solidified than what it is here.
Yeah, I mean, what's playing time? I get it.
Well, I think he only has the 1 year of eligibility left. He is a grad transfer.
Yeah, he's a grad transfer, so there is no window for grad transfers.
There's not, especially, and I know he transitioned from edge to defensive tackle as the season went along last year. But you look at the onslaught of talent they brought in both those rooms. I think he saw the writing on the wall, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get on the field this year. Let me go try my hand somewhere else.
I'm sure when you had your meeting with the coaches and they told you that you're not ascending on the depth chart, you're descending on the depth chart,
right?
It's time to go. So there's Shane talking about Drew Tuazama, who's transferring out, going to find a place where he can get some more run. Ticket-a-palooza. We got that going on. We're going to give you multiple chances during the show to win tickets to go see Asia Wilson. It's Saturday at CLA, 1 p.m. as the Vegas Aces will take on the Puerto Rican national team. This hour will give you opportunity number 1 to snag those tickets. So you'll hear the sounder. It'll be caller number 6. Don't call now. Wait for the sounder. And when you hear that this hour, give us a ring and you'll get some tickets to go check out Asia Wilson and the Vegas squad against the Puerto Rican national team. I will get back as we discuss Georgia, South Carolina. We'll flip over and hear from the Georgia head coach, first-year head coach.
Yep.
Wes Johnson. This team has been much more successful than anyone thought they would be. We're going to hear from the Georgia coach next as we get ready for tonight's game, starting the 3-game series with Georgia and South Carolina over at Founders. That's coming up. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling up until 3 here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford and Tyler Head. What we're talking about right now is Gamecocks and Bulldogs baseball at Founders tonight. Again, 7:45 pre in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. 100.3, of course, our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 107.5 the game here. 8 o'clock first pitch. Georgia this year has, along with Kentucky, the two biggest surprises in the SEC. Easy.
I think that's fair.
The other surprise is just how bad LSU's been.
That's true. They've started to trend in the right direction a little bit, but they're still fighting for their lives to just make it to Hoover in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's almost, you guys started a little late. You jumped into the party a little late. So Georgia has been, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw it coming.
Not with the first-year head coach.
No.
And, this is a program that has perennially been able to make a regional. So that's why they actually fired Coach Strickland, who'd been there for, close to 10 years.
Been there a while.
Because he couldn't get him to a super. And look, South Carolina has accomplished more in recent history than Georgia has, but there's still an expectation. That was a Georgia team that went to, 3 Omahas in the 2000s, last one in 08. Like, there's an expectation to get there on a somewhat frequent basis, and Coach Strickland was never able to get him out of the first round.
All right, if you look at the 2024 SEC baseball preseason coaches poll, which I have right here in front of me, Eastern Division, Florida pick first.
Okay.
That didn't work out well.
Didn't work out.
Tennessee second, get it.
That's fair.
Vandy third.
Okay.
They've been good, maybe not great, but they've been good.
Not the Vandy we know of years past.
Exactly. South Carolina fourth.
That sounds about right.
Kentucky fifth.
That was wrong.
Georgia sixth. Oops.
That was also wrong.
And then Missouri seventh. Nailed it.
Nailed that one. So what? 2 out of 7 ain't bad.
Yeah. So Kentucky and Georgia preseason fifth and sixth, and we see what both those programs have done. Brand new fancy head coach, Wes Johnson, who had never been a head coach before, just a pitching coach, if my memory serves me.
That is correct.
Johnson has done a fantastic job this year. And here is the Georgia head baseball coach talking about why the team, especially here of late, they've been really cooking here late. So they've been on a run. They've had a good season, top 10 RPI. Here's Coach Johnson talking about why the Bulldogs have played better recently.
I think, we're pitching a little better. Our offense is what it is. Now, we've had some guys hold us down, during that stretch as well. But I think we're throwing the ball a little better. Some guys it's not easy. I go back to this. When we started this year, I had 3 guys on the staff who had been 5 innings in a Division I baseball game. So people just think it's easy. Oh, this guy's got good stuff. Just throw him out there and let him go 5. Boy, it's a journey, man, especially in this league.
So, yeah, the pitching has gotten better recently. And we've talked about it. They can rip it in the batter's box. So, that's the thing about Georgia is, can their pitching get to a point of consistency? Because they're going to score.
Yes.
It's just, can you pitch well enough? And that seems about where their ceiling will be in the postseason. If they can get pitching to go with that offense, that's a scary team.
Yeah.
I think with South Carolina, to be quite honest, right now, if we step back and look at South Carolina, right now they're averaging almost 10 runs a game with this new lineup. Defensively, they've had a few moments of, but it's been okay.
Sure.
The bullpen, especially lately, has been good. The thing that almost feels like, okay, how deep will this team go in the postseason will be how well do their starting pitchers perform. Because they've kind of MacGyvered this thing together with duct tape and gum and everything else. So we'll see if the starting pitching can be solid, Tyler. South Carolina, you get, and there's always matchups and brackets and everything else, but South Carolina has a much better chance to go deep in the postseason if they can get consistent starting pitching.
Well, look, nobody wins without pitching. And if you don't have that in your back pocket, then you're not going to go very far. And again, we've seen at times South Carolina's entire staff look great. And at times like this past weekend, starters were rad, bullpen came in clutch. So you hope it evens out and balances out for what you're going to need in the postseason here in a couple weeks. But, for this weekend, again, I think the biggest key is making sure your starters get some decent run in these games and aren't getting bounced after 2 2/3.
Right. You got to get some length. And I know it's not like it used to be, but you have to get some length out of your starting pitchers. And that's just the thing with South Carolina right now is like with all the inconsistencies we've seen all year up and down and around and peaks and valleys, and a lot of stuff seems to be getting consistent. The lineup, consistent. Offensively, ever since they went to this new lineup, they've been scoring a ton of runs. The bullpen has really stepped up lately. I mean, the midweek game, you had all the, all the youngins came in there and pitched in the midweek game against Winthrop and for the most part held their own. So you just hope you're starting pitching because, look, Eli Jones has been good at times this year. He struggled lately, but he was good earlier this year. So you know that he has the ability to take the ball, throw that sinker, get a lot of ground balls. Defense helps him out. He does well.
Right.
We know Roman Kimball's got arm talent. We know that Dylan Eskew, when Eskew's on, very difficult to hit. I mean, we've seen Ty Good be the long man to the opener of Roman Kimball. It's there. It's just got to get itself back in that consistent track once you get to the postseason. So these two teams are alike in some ways, even though obviously Georgia's better offensively. I think South Carolina's pitching is better. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to watch these three games. All right, once again, 7:45 tonight we get rolling. First pitch at 8 in Myrtle Beach and here in Columbia. And, of course, how does this affect you moving forward with your RPI? And, look, if South Carolina could just hold their own the rest of the season, you were at worst going to host the regional at worst.
Yeah, I think we were all surprised by seeing where they fell in the latest projections yesterday from D1 because going into the weekend, they were flirting around 10. And we talked about this yesterday. You maybe had a shot at getting into that coveted top 8 if you handled your business next 2 weekends. They dropped all the way to 16 after winning a road series.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
A lot of this rhyme or reason has no rhyme or reason. Like, let's say if you won 2 out of 3 this weekend, obviously you're going to shoot back up. Now, let's say you lose 2 out of 3. But here's what's kooky. Let's say these 3, because let's go aggregate score guy.
Well, here we go.
I love some aggregate score. Let's say that you lose 2 out of 3, but the aggregate score is like 20-19, and every game's close. It's just Georgia, in the big key moments, they won a couple of the big key moments.
Right.
You can't. Do you fall? Because you're at home losing 2 out of 3, but Georgia's top 10 RPI. You're in every game. Every game's really close. Would you go up? That's how screwy some of this is sometimes.
It is, and I don't envy the people that have to put these things together.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not criticizing the people at D1 baseball. Their job is not easy to figure all this stuff out. And it's one thing to do it for college basketball. It's another thing to do it for college baseball because you're talking about a lot more games, a lot more things to nitpick and kind of, look at on how to seed these teams. So it's something I couldn't do myself. So I trust these guys, what they say. It's just unfortunate to see them tumble that much after winning a road series, regardless of who it's against in the SEC.
Well, a lot of times, too, it's, all right, what do the other teams do around you in the poll?
That's true.
And that's another thing. And look, eye test matters if you're watching.
Right.
If not, sometimes voters look at box scores and they'll go, wow, you only beat them like that? Because that's the way the football and basketball polls go. Mm-hmm. We all know that.
Yep.
We know, look, the coach's poll, sometimes the coach walks in and looks at his assistant, hey, Gracie, can you fill out my poll? I got to go play golf.
When was the last time you think Nick Saban filled out his weekly coach's poll?
I bet you he shuts the door and locks it, and for 3 hours does deep, deep, deep study before he put in his 25.
He finds the janitor that's taking out the trash and said, here, fill this out for me.
Zeke, when you get back from the dumpster, can you do the coach's poll for me? Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I got to go rip Jimbo at a Rotary. Thanks. So, I think South Carolina, if they can just, again, hold their own through the next 6 games, they'll host a regional. Now, again, if you crater in these next 6, then you're teetering, right?
I mean, you're in the field. We know that much.
Right.
Like, that much is a given. You're not fighting for your life over these next couple of weeks, but you have the potential to host like you did a season ago, which is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
And again, when we talk about what they accomplished last year, that's kind of the bare minimum. Like, at bare minimum in a lot of people's eyes, you should be hosting again. If not getting to a super regional, maybe hosting that too. Again, that seems a little bit more out of reach right now, but it's going to be decided in these next couple of weeks.
Yep. So we shall see starting tonight against Georgia. All right, our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour is coming up at 803-404-6100, so get that in here. And, I mean, we have tickets, man. We got NASCAR tickets. Tomorrow, Jen and Tyler will kick back in with some NASCAR trivia between 6 a.m. and noon. Give you 6 chances to kick off to Darlington on Sunday for the Goodyear 400. Both shows will be in Darlington tomorrow. Early game from 6 to 9. extra point. Tyler will, kind of drive all the shows from Darlington from 9 to noon. Tyler doesn't want to be there. We're forcing him to be at Darlington. He's pretty annoyed about it.
I usually don't enjoy waking up early, but no complaints from me tomorrow.
And then Tyler will just stay in Darlington. I told him, just stay in Darlington when you're done. Don't worry about coming back here, and just stay there. Run around, rub axle grease all over your face, and act like you're in the pits. And
Don't tempt me with a good time.
I'm telling
You're talking to somebody that used to take lug nuts off pit road.
you have a little lug nut necklace.
Oh, I have a ton of them. Hey, they're there. They're
I
free.
believe it.
They don't get mad at you for taking them.
Take them. Now, do you have them marked on which day you got the lug nuts and which race it is?
I kind of keep them separated based on when I got them. But
So you separate your lug nuts?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Got to keep your lug nuts in order.
You never want your lug nuts out of order, and you don't want them mixing with other lug nuts that
No,
shouldn't belong together.
That's just basic.
I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer.
Of course.
So both shows will be out there tomorrow, 6 to noon. Give you a chance to win tickets to go to the Goodyear 400 at Darlington. We'll be doing NASCAR trivia every hour between 6 a.m. and noon tomorrow for NASCAR tickets. Asia Wilson, what the heck? Grab our cool sounder, Tyler. Let's go for this thing. Let's fire it up and give you a chance to win some tickets to go see the Vegas Aces and Asia Wilson take on the Puerto Rican national team. That is Saturday at CLA. We ready? Hit it.
Call now for your chance to win tickets to go check out Asia Wilson and the defending champion Las Vegas Aces take on the Puerto Rican national team. Caller number 6 wins from the game.
803-404-6100. Caller number 6 right now will win those tickets. We'll come back. Our Firehouse Sub text of the hour on the halftime show on the game.
Yep.
Halftime show here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, thanks for hanging out with us, whether you're in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. We appreciate you. All right, Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What you got there, Tyler Head, off the old text line?
Yeah, so Chris weighs in, just keeps it short and simple. I'm so excited to go to the game tonight. Ditching the kids and the wife. Go Cox, beat the dogs.
Ditching the kids and the wife.
I get it.
I am rolling solo. Hey, I'm just not taking you to the game.
Listen, Dad's gonna be a little rowdy tonight. I don't want you to see him like that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna leave you here.
Yeah. Well, no need to see Dad in the possible condition.
Hey, in line with Chris, you're gonna need a rowdy atmosphere tonight. That's a tough team. You want to make it give them game South Carolina the best home field advantage you can have.
Yeah, you want to be loud. You want to make this thing very difficult, as much as you can do as a fan, to make it loud and difficult for Georgia. Because again, it's a big series. It's absolutely a big series. Final
one at home, by the way.
Yep. So get there, get loud, be intense. Just don't do anything that'll get you arrested.
Well, I think that
unless it'll help you beat Georgia.
That usually goes without saying, but somebody that has your past history of shenanigans, perhaps it does need to be reiterated.
I really can't talk about those past cases, Tyler.
Is that Terry Ford dangling from the foul pole in the outfield?
Oh, man. We had fun at games. Let's just put it that way. We had fun at games.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah. I tell you, so I've seen some rowdy stuff, man. Whether it was me or somebody else, I've seen some rowdy stuff at games.
Now, now that you're older, you have kids and all that kind of stuff, do you look at the rowdy people at games and be like, oh, glad I'm not that guy anymore?
Well, I'll go, or I'll do this. Wow, I was that stupid.
That was me?
Wow, I did that. Or
I could see how that would annoy people.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm surprised I didn't get killed doing that. Man, what an idiot. But yeah, that young version of you doesn't think about any of that stuff. You've lost your mind, right?
Sure.
You got it going. So yeah, tonight, go out there, have fun, be intense, enjoy yourself, make life difficult for Georgia as they take on South Carolina at Founders. Like you said, last home series of the season. Now again, if you host a regional,
but here's the thing: the regionals, and I hate that they do this. You have no home field advantage. You can't get your walk-up songs. You can't have anything that screams home ballpark, which I don't like because
season obviously in the regional.
Yes.
But tonight will be the last regular season tilt at Founders and a trip to Tennessee. You get top 10 RPI squads in a row, 2 of the best offensive teams in the league in a row. So we'll see where it tumbles.
That gives you an opportunity to end the season on a high note. Obviously, done good, winning 3 out of your last 4. Some tough places to play: Gainesville, Como this past weekend. So get one more at Founders, then you go to a rather hitter-friendly park in Knoxville next weekend that hopefully you can take advantage of.
Very hitter-friendly park, yep. All right, coming up, football in the 1 o'clock hour, except at 1:30. It won't be football at 1:30. We're going to re-rack your interview with your buddy Jeff Dantzler.
We'll go behind enemy lines as well.
Yeah, we'll find out more about Georgia baseball because it's a big series. So we're going to interrupt football with a little baseball at 1:30 and re-rack your interview from earlier with Jeff Dantzler, your bud from Georgia.
Yes.
So all that's coming up. All right, in the 1 o'clock hour, obviously, we'll hear from Shane Beamer, some more welcome home from Charleston. Also, Andy Staples, the On 3 podcast that Andy does. They did the floor and the ceiling for South Carolina. We're going to hear that. Brian Kelly had a very interesting riff. Now, if you just see a headline of it, you roll your eyes.
It takes a deeper dive.
You go, wow, you going Dabo? But once you hear it, Brian Kelly makes some sense. So we're going to have that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour as well as we roll football, except for 1:30. Jeff Dantzler, one of the Georgia baseball play-by-play voices, will give us a little preview of the Georgia Bulldogs. Coming up here on the halftime show in the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, glad you could be hanging. 1 o'clock hour is football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We appreciate those folks. Like I said, bottom of the hour, we're going to break from football a little bit because it's a big baseball weekend. Tyler yipped with Jeff Dantzler, part of the broadcasting crew for Georgia Baseball, and we'll have that re-rack at the bottom of the hour at 1:30. Right now, though, since we are concentrating on football, Andy Staples, his On 3 podcast, they're doing floors and ceilings. The podcast was like 2 hours. Really, they went deep dive on Andy Staples' podcast. Talking about South Carolina, ceiling and floor. Let's get to it, Tyler. Cut 17. Andy Staples on his podcast talking about South Carolina's ceiling and floor for 2024.
I just mentioned the Gamecocks. Let's talk the Gamecocks because
please.
This is an interesting year for Shane Beamer, and I feel like South Carolina gets heavily invested when they overachieve, and then they'll step back, and then they get into the situation where they've now overinvested, but now they need to do something different. So this is a big split for them. Mm-hmm. I got their ceiling at 8-4 and their floor at 4-8.
I like it. I like it, Andy.
Like they got some good, like Nick Harbor. If Nick Harbor were to develop into the potential player we thought he would be as a recruit,
right?
Like how would you even stop that? What would you do about that? Lenore Seller's going to start. Shane Beamer said that basically, or said he's the number 1 QB coming out of spring.
I think he said,
yeah. So, but they've got other good players that they found, like Nick Emenworry at safety. It was a local product that they unearthed. They've got good players there, but it doesn't feel like they have a consistently good roster.
It's an interesting take. And look, the depth of the roster got them last year, right?
Right.
Especially on the offensive line. That's where we talked about going to last year. What's the one room on this football team you really can't have a lot of injuries? Oh, offensive line.
Yep.
So, yeah, the lack of depth at that position got them. I feel like, and I get where Andy and Cody are going there. Really, Andy. Cody's on board, man. Cody's on board with 8-4 because he loves Sellers and, the potential of Harbor and Rocket Sanders.
Cody doesn't think we need a ceremony. Go and hand out the Heisman Trophy.
I love it. But I understand where Andy Staples is going when it comes to the depth of the roster. But I'll say this. We don't know how it's going to go, but they've added depth at running back. They've added depth on the offensive line. They've added depth at wide receiver. They've added depth on the D-line, in the linebacker room. They already had a bunch of DBs coming back from last year. I feel like they've attempted to fill that depth question or that depth void. We'll see how it plays out, but I feel like right now, if you look at this football team, again, we don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But it feels like it's a deeper squad of guys who have track records that they can at least hold their own.
Well, barring, again, a catastrophic amount of injuries like you did have in the offensive line, so it's not impossible, but barring that happening again, you feel good about your depth pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to sit here right now and go, okay, where can you get ravaged with injury? Maybe not, defensive back maybe, because you got a lot of unproven guys back there.
Okay.
Behind Fortune, Emenworry, and Smith, and if Spalding's healthy, he's got experience. But the rest of those guys are relatively inexperienced or totally inexperienced.
Right.
That might be the one position on the team you go, ooh, don't want any injuries there.
Sure.
But I think linebacker, you're okay. If you got to have next man up there with the depth. Defensive front, both the interior and the edge now. Offensive line's got a lot of folks. We don't know how it's all going to shake out, but there's a lot of guys there.
There are, and what's interesting, we knew, at the beginning of this week that South Carolina was still exploring maybe bringing in an additional offensive lineman, as we believe they only had one more scholarship to hand out. Now that Tuazama's gone, there's another one. You theoretically have maybe one more scholarship or two more scholarships that you can, potentially fill a, not a void, but saying, hey, we got, 10 wide receivers, let's go get 11. You know what I mean? And are you going to end up using all those guys? You're not. But from a depth standpoint and a competition standpoint, it's a good thing. And look, with all these guys they've already brought in from the transfer portal via receiver, they're not all going to get to play. They're not all going to get significant snaps. But based on how many guys are there with playing experience, the guys that are on the field are your best 4 or 5, however many it ends up being.
So I understand the 8-4-4-8. And, I don't disagree with it.
And again, this schedule is
It's a bear.
daunting.
Yeah, I mean, and they go over that, in detail in the podcast. Andy goes, yeah, but look at that schedule. And yeah, you're going to Bama, you're going to Oklahoma.
In consecutive weeks, no less.
Yeah, you got LSU coming in. I mean, it's a schedule.
Ole Miss.
I mean, the double-digit win team 2 of the last 3 years.
Going on the road to
who
Clemson
looks
this
stacked. Yeah, I mean, and then, of course, you got Kentucky and Texas A&M, and you beat Kentucky a couple times in a row.
The only bullet you dodged this year is Georgia.
Yeah, it's a nice bullet to dodge, but the rest of them have gotten you. You get hit by the rest of them, right? I mean, and A&M, you've beaten them once since you started playing them in the SEC.
Yeah.
So it's a tough schedule. There's no doubt. I don't know if I would go as far as 4-8 to fall. I mean,
I wouldn't say that's the floor, but at the same time, I could see how that could happen if that makes sense.
Could you see a repeat of a 5-7? Yeah.
And I think the biggest swing game to me is the week number 2 against Kentucky. Your first SEC game on the road against a team that you finally kind of turned the corner and started beating. And, yeah, they got a lot of new pieces there. Brock Vandegrift going to be the starting quarterback. So there's a lot about Kentucky we don't know. But if you walk out of there with a loss, then you're looking at the rest of the schedule being like, assuming you beat Old Dominion week number 1, like, man, where do you find those other 5 wins?
Yeah, because that's the thing. Kentucky's beatable.
Yes.
They just are. And because, remember, you want to get them early while they're trying to figure out their new pieces.
Right.
And, I mean, you beat them in Lexington 2 years ago, so it's not like you can't do it.
Right.
Yeah, if you take an L there.
Because then LSU's after that.
Don't
feel good about that one.
So I understand where Andy Staples is going. 4-8 would be a wow. Ooh, what happened? Because 5-7 was, well, you knew what happened in 5-7. Though.
Yeah,
you knew.
And 5-7, you can go back and point to very specific things, like we talk about, what happened against Florida and those 4th downs, not being able to score the touchdowns against Clemson. It's like, okay, if you fix these 2 or 3 little things in the course of the season, you're at the very least going to a bowl game. 4-8, that's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, 4-8, unless it's, you get cratered by injuries, 4-8 is like, wow, you really took a step back.
And we talked about this the other day. The way you lost these games this year, outside of Tennessee, they got away from you in the 4th quarter, you really weren't, destroyed by anybody. Even Georgia only beat you by, 10 points?
Well, you're up at halftime on Georgia.
So even in the games that you lost, you're like, okay, well, it looked more competitive than, getting blown out 49-7. So if you're losing to LSU and Ole Miss and Bama and all these teams by 30 and 40 points and then go 4-8, that's a tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah, so and look, we have a long way to go till this thing starts.
Right.
It feels like a 6-6, 7-5, get back to a bowl game type season with this schedule, breaking in a new starting quarterback, really bringing in a lot of new pieces on offense in general.
Right.
I feel like that's where this thing is at.
Yeah.
And 8-4 would be fantastic. I don't feel a 4-8 possibility unless you really have some key injuries that you just can't overcome. I just don't feel like that'll happen. But this schedule is very difficult, to be fair, what Andy Staples said. Not easy. It was very interesting what Cody loves himself some Lenore Sellers. We played that yesterday. Tell you what, we'll do this real quick. We played it yesterday, but if you missed it, here's our boy Cody in the podcast talking about what he thinks Lenore Sellers could possibly be this year.
Andy, this might be my hottest take of the season, but I think we're looking at a Lenoris sort of Heisman caliber.
Whoa!
We are so high on him at On3, right? Like we believed in the talent, we saw the physical makeup, the athletic ability. If those 3 guys are the only ones that touch the ball on this offense, I'm okay. Because I believe that Lenore Sellers is going to be so much of a game changer. They were raving about him even before he took a snap of spring. This is somebody that they were saying, oh my gosh, this kid though with the rec specs is an absolute dude back here.
So that's where our boy Cody is about Lenore Sellers, a possible Heisman dark horse.
Right.
And if Lenore Sellers goes crazy and plays at that level, and Rocket Sanders is healthy, and the big if of all the big ifs, the offensive line can be solid,
Right.
to go what we think will be an improved defense that has depth. Could you get up to that ceiling that Andy and Cody are talking about? Yeah.
Sure.
You could.
Sure.
But, so we'll see. But that's the Andy Staples and Cody. I always mess up his last name.
It's Belair.
Belair?
Belair.
Okay.
Like Fresh Prince.
Nice.
Easy to remember.
So that was their podcast, their ceiling and floor going into this upcoming 2024 season. All right, we have more tickets for Asia Wilson and the Vegas Aces taking on the Puerto Rican national team. We'll do that this hour, so be ready for that. Bottom of the hour, re-racking Tyler's interview with Jeff Dantzler from the Georgia Baseball play-by-play crew. We'll come back, though. Brian Kelly said something really interesting yesterday, and in the world we live in, the headline of what Brian Kelly said brought him a lot of grief. But if you listen to what Brian Kelly actually said, it makes sense. We're going to get to that next. Football, 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
All right, so he's got another read that he's about to do. Oop, my answer.
Look, if you're one of those folks that, you know, the decor of your house matters, or, you know, the appliances, the fixtures, tubs, showers, you know, if all that stuff, you know, it's near and dear to you, and you want to make it be the best it can be, or makes you comfortable because you want your house to be comfortable in the sort of, you know, decor that you like. Why would you go to a place where people have no experience? Where Sparky, you know, who just left his job at the restaurant, is now putting on the apron and working, and, you know, can tell you basically, hey, what aisle are the nails in? 16. No, you want experience. The Nest, over 70 years of experience at the Nest. They will help you, whether it's your budget, your decor, your style, your goals, your dreams. Set up an appointment to the Nest. 803-979-2025. They will make your home look the way you want it. The Nest on Gadsden. Halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on the game. Get my headphones on as they're stuck. Look at that. They're stuck on other headphones. There we go. All right, as we go football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Brian Kelly. Again, if you just saw the headline, you're going, oh, wow, here we go. Another one of these old school football coaches who hates NIL and doesn't want to do it and pay anybody anything and wants to just go the old way and blah, 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 blah. That's not what Brian Kelly said if you listen to the entire riff. The headline, I get if you just saw the headline, but here is the full boat, a minute and almost 2 minutes of Brian Kelly discussing, because the headline you saw is we're not in the market of buying players.
Yep.
And you're going, really, Brian? Yeah, you are. Everybody is. Or if you're not, you're in trouble. Here's Brian Kelly. Go for it, Tyler.
Well, I think I made it pretty clear in a number of the press conferences that I had that we were in the market in recruiting in the transfer portal looking for defensive linemen. It hasn't fared very well, quite frankly, because we're selling something a little bit differently, and that is we want to recruit, we want to engage, build relationships, we want to develop, retain, and have success. We're not in the market of buying players, and unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for. They want to be bought. And look, I understand NIL is part of this, and we have an incredible collective. We have very, very generous opportunities around the greater Baton Rouge area for NIL opportunities. So they are here, but we're not going to go out and buy players. That's not what this is about. This was never about that. We will develop you. We will get you ready for the next step, as we did with Jaden Daniels, as we did with Malik Neighbors, as we did with Brian Thomas. We developed 3 defensive linemen that all got drafted this year, and we'll do that again. But if you're just looking to get paid, you're looking in the wrong place. If you like all the things that we do here in developing our players, bringing you into a championship program, playing in front of the best fan base in America, playing for championships, and having an opportunity for NIL, you should be a Tiger. But if you just want to get, paid, this is not the place for you.
Now, see, I totally get that, right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And again, from the headline, it's easy for people to kind of jump on him, saying, oh, well, you better get in the market of buying players, or you're not going to be very successful. But I think it boils down to the fundamental nature of what this is and what college football is. And I likened it to, back with, Nick Saban when he decided to retire, and he, after the fact talked about, I didn't like the fact that I was sitting at these, community events begging people for $20 out of their purse when there are better ways to do this. But that's the nature of the game, and you got to play the game. But unfortunately, you have to play by these kind of rules if you want to be successful. But I'm sure there's a long list of coaches that, like Brian Kelly, don't like that.
Well, I think there's a difference of what Brian Kelly said is so interesting is, look, we're about NIL. We got a heck of a collective. There are a lot of opportunities in Baton Rouge. And by the way, you know what market also is kind of part of the LSU Baton Rouge market? New Orleans.
Yeah.
We've got opportunities for you to make dough. We have a collective. We're fine with NIL, but you know what? If you're just coming here to get a bag, don't come here.
Yeah.
Come here because you want to play for LSU. You care about the culture. You care about the history. You care about winning. You care about putting in the work and the grind. If you're just coming here to get paid, don't come here. But if you want to come here to play for LSU, we'll make sure you do get paid.
Right.
That's really, in my opinion, what Brian Kelly's trying to say. And it gets twisted and turned.
And that is what the structure of NIL is supposed to be, where you commit to a school because you like the academics, like the coach, you want to go play and get yourself developed to go to the NFL or whatever it may be. And once you are there, then you seek out opportunities to get NIL deals. Obviously, it's divulged to something completely different, but what he's saying is the fundamental nature of what NIL is supposed to be. Go to the school and then look for those opportunities after the fact. But of course, we know that's not how the game is played right now.
Right. And And look, if I'm a head coach, I don't want you coming here if you're just looking to get paid.
Right.
No, I want you to come here because I want you to care about winning. I want you to care about getting yours, of course, but you can care about winning and getting yours at the same time. If you're just a guy looking for a payday, and you just want to go to the place that offers you the most dough, no, that's not what we're about here.
Right.
I mean, in professional sports, the same thing. You want to bring a guy in. You want to bring them in because they want to play for you and they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just solely trying to get paid and don't care about your culture, don't care about winning, they just care about how much money they can put in their bank account, winning teams don't want that guy. Winning teams want guys who are invested in winning. Everybody's getting paid.
Sure.
I mean, if you're a good player in college football, we'll just take college football. If you're a high-level player in college football, you're going to get yours.
Mm-hmm.
So let's push that aside. But what do you care about? Do you care about also winning every Saturday? And maybe you care about going to a place that can get you to the NFL and it's proven they can get dudes to the NFL? Or you just want to go to the place that's going to offer you the best NIL deal? And Brian Kelly's saying if you're B, don't bother us.
Yeah.
Now, if you're A, we want you. But if you're just looking to scratch as much NIL as you can get, that's not the player we're looking for. And nobody's looking for that guy. Let's just be real.
Of course not.
Brian Kelly just said it out loud.
Yeah.
And maybe he could have said it better or said it in a way they couldn't pull the instant gratification clickbait that was pulled out of this.
Right.
But look, ask Shane Beamer. Go ask Shane Beamer, is he one of just guys that want to get paid or you want guys that want to win? What do you think he's going to say to you?
Guys that want to win.
No one's going to come and say as a coach, I just want to pay. I just want to pay guys. Nobody wants to do that.
Sure.
Because, again, Shane Beamer's job's on the line to win. He wants guys that are invested in South Carolina and invested in winning. Remember, Shane talked about the quarterback thing they went through in the offseason. Shane was like, I got guys on the phone saying, you're going to guarantee me a starting job?
No.
No, I'm not. You got to compete. Okay, coach, well, I guess I'll go somewhere else where they're going to guarantee me. Okay, fine. Good luck.
Yeah.
So that was Shane's line in the sand on this stuff. And Brian Kelly's line is, look, yeah, we got money, but if you're just coming here to get money, don't come here because we don't want you.
Right.
Which every coach in America agrees. And you brought up Saban. That's not Saban's bag either. No, Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Kirby would say?
Probably the same thing.
Yes. No coach wants guys who are just showing up to get paid. Because coaches, look, there are some coaches who have taken jobs to get paid. They don't last long. Because we know some of these guys sleep in their bleeping office. Right? Some of these guys, they go home after 3 or 4 days. Kids go, who are you? I mean, you grind and there's sacrifice in being successful. And coaches want players who want to grind and sacrifice to be successful. Not some dude who just cares about his NIL money so he can go buy a cool car.
Right.
So I'm with Brian Kelly. And if you listen to it the whole way through, most people would go, oh, no, I get you now. I agree. What do you think LSU fans would say?
Probably the same thing.
Yeah. How about the players on the team? What do you think they want?
Probably the same thing.
Guys who want to win or dudes who just want to get paid? So Brian Kelly's right. It's just, again, it's Brian Kelly.
Yeah, we already kind of lean towards being against Brian Kelly in a lot of ways for things that he's done and said in the past, the fake Southern accent notwithstanding.
That was the worst.
So, when it comes out of his mouth, it's not always going to be met in the best way. But like you said, I don't think he necessarily said anything wrong there.
Well, remember, Brian Kelly tried to make the joke, took the John McKay joke in Tampa and said it at halftime about players' execution. Now, that joke, John McKay did it, and it was hilarious years ago.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly kind of didn't work because he's Brian Kelly.
Sure.
Don't try humor, Brian. It's not your friend. And, of course, Brian Kelly's had some things through his career that makes him a guy that's easy not to like.
Right.
But in this instance, I'm actually going to side with Brian Kelly, even though it kind of makes you feel a little weird. But what Brian Kelly said, every coach, every fan, and every player on those teams or in general would agree with.
Yes.
So, but anyway, it's just very interesting. He got people were going back after O'Brien on that one because they didn't hear the whole thing. All right, we're going to skip out of here. We're going to go Jeff Dantzler next, a re-rack of an interview that Tyler did with Jeff. That is next here on the Halftime Show on The Game.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford along with you here on The Game. Obviously, a huge series tonight with South Carolina baseball taking on Georgia. Spoke to my buddy Jeff Dantzler, who is on the radio broadcast team for the Georgia Bulldogs a little bit earlier on this morning. Asked him his insight into this team. Started off by what his expectations were for Wes Johnson in year number 1 as head coach out there in Athens.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Great to be with you, my friend. I think we felt like Georgia could do this, be in the hunt. We all know you get to 14 or 15 wins in this league, you're good enough if you get hot at the right time. I mean, Ole Miss 2 years ago went 14 and 16 and won the national title. And I think with the additions he and the staff were able to make in the portal, combined with having Charlie Condon and Corey Collins and some very good players like Fernando Gonzalez coming back and some good young pitchers from the year before, it's made for a really fun team. See, I think the expectations were we can be good this year, and he really did a good job blending. And any coach will tell you now, Tyler, that recipe is different. It used to be, and when I say used to be, I'm not old man yells at cloud. I'm talking about just 5 years ago. It's your returnees and your newcomers, your freshmen. Well, now you got your returnees, your newcomer freshmen, and the pieces in the portal, and just trying to get those to mesh. It's not the easiest formula in the world, but so far so good.
You mentioned Charlie Condon, and you can't talk about this team without talking about him. Legitimately one of the, if not the best players in all of college baseball, going to be a very high draft pick here coming up in just a couple of months' time. When Carolina and Georgia squared off last year, it was in early March. It was the first SEC season, a series of the season for both teams, and Charlie Condon had not exploded on the scene just yet at that point in time. Since then, what makes this guy so special, and where does kind of he rank in the all-time greats that you've gotten to watch?
He is incredible. He's a great leader on the team. And when you're talking about players that I've gotten to see and players that I've gotten to call, he's definitely up at the top of the list, not just for Georgia players, but of players I've ever seen in college baseball. Very special.
Now, Georgia's more than a one-man show when it comes to offense. You mentioned some of those names a moment ago. Corey Collins, really good at getting on base. I know he gets hit a lot in that leadoff spot, but finds a way to get on base and makes things happen on the base path. Colby Alford has got a nice little hitting streak. Slade Alford has a nice little hitting streak going. Colby Branch is second on the team in home runs. Who is perhaps the best complement to Charlie Condon when you talk about the other 8 in the starting lineup on offense?
Corey Collins. He is settled in, and Corey's a fourth-year player. He had a great freshman year. It was up and down. Didn't end his sophomore year the way he would have liked. It was hurt the second half of last year, but he has really blossomed this year. He's just done a great job of getting on base and has provided some power. Part of the year he's hit third, part of the year he's hit first, but just him being around Charlie has been a really good 1-2 punch. And there are enough pieces in this lineup where Georgia's been very good 1 through 9. Now, I don't know if there's that. If Charlie's Babe Ruth, I don't know if there's necessarily that Lou Gehrig there, but I think the 1 through 9 is very, very, very good. I think South Carolina's similar. I mean, the Gamecocks lineup is exceptional. And when you look at the weather this weekend, and that is a hitter's park, runs, it might take 8, 9, 10, 11 to win at least 1 or 2 of these games, and both teams have very good pitching as well. But I expect for this to be an offensive series for sure.
Again, talking to Jeff Dantzler, one half of the radio broadcast team for Georgia baseball. Coach Johnson, of course, a pitching coach by trade. The pitching has improved dramatically over these past couple series in line with them winning 11 out of their last 15. What has gone right in these past couple weeks in terms of pitching, and how have they gotten better?
You've definitely done your homework there. I think you've seen some pitchers step to the forefront who've been brought along, building up those innings counts, getting a couple of pitchers back who have been injured, and I think just more guys getting more comfortable with their roles. I'll tell you, I've been doing this a long time, 30 years, and one of the things I've seen in great teams that Georgia's had, and so many of the great teams that I've seen face Georgia, including those great South Carolina teams with Ray Tanner, is that when you get kind of towards the middle end of April, you really need to have a couple of players emerge who might not have done as much thus far. And it's the college version of what I like to call the major league trade deadline, or that September call-up, just to get a fresh arm or get a fresh bat in there. I just think that's very important. Georgia's had a couple of those, and a lot of times, along with having your main actor, that supporting actor there who comes along in the second half of the season might be able to give you just that little extra to get your team to that ultimate destination.
Now, somebody that was in the starting lineup last weekend against Vanderbilt that had to leave early with some issues with his tricep was Charlie Goldstein. I know at last check the other day they were not 100% on if he was going to be available this weekend. Any of the latest you can give us on him?
I know he's here. I'm not sure if he can go or not. Now, of course, Tyler, you know this, when he had to leave the game and he's flexing his hand, you're thinking, oh, boy, here we go. But thank goodness it wasn't the TJ. So I think it's just going to be a game time type decision. But Goldstein is a very good left-hander. He was really, really pitching an excellent game last week when he left. So I hated to see that. I don't know if it's a situation where maybe he could start and go out there and give 6 or 7 innings. But if there's any question or whatever, I think Georgia would hold him back. But I think the plan is that he should be able to pitch this weekend, and hopefully those cramps and that triceps don't bother him.
Now, I know Colton Smith's been coming out of the bullpen mainly, but I believe he did start the other weekend against A&M. Would he possibly be another option in the starting lineup if Goldstein's not good to go?
Tyler, I think it's a situation, and Smith's been outstanding for Georgia in his last 6 appearances. He's got 39 strikeouts against 2 walks. I think it's a deal. Let's say if it's 3-2 in the 5th or the 6th tonight or tomorrow night, and the Dogs felt like they could win with him coming out of the pen, I think Georgia goes to the pen. If it's a situation where Georgia was behind, you probably wait, and then maybe you play it out to where he would get that Game 3 start. But I think it's a situation with Colton Smith for Georgia is if the Bulldogs feel like they've got a chance to win the game in the middle to late innings, they'll fire that bullet and go ahead and go to him. And you're seeing more and more teams do that, with all the with the game being more offensive now this year, and with the just injury rate of it's just for pitchers.
Our Georgia lineup.
Well, that's where it all starts with the starting pitching, and it just sets a tone, the trickle down for it. And I would expect we'll see a terrific South Carolina team. They've got a great team, and they're so good here at home in Columbia. I'm hoping just for the Bulldogs, with this being a Thursday through Saturday with a late start tonight, maybe it'll keep that South Carolina crowd. Hey, get those kids to bed early. Maybe it'll keep the Gamecock faithful a little bit quiet. Maybe it's not as packed tonight, but I know on Friday and Saturday it'll be jam-packed. And these two East rivals have played so many great games and series through the years, and I expect another one here this weekend starting tonight.
Well, there's no football matchup between these two teams in the foreseeable future, so you got to get your fill of the rivalry this weekend.
It's so bizarre. I had the TV on. I leave it either on the SEC Network or the Golf Channel for my dogs, Albus and Hermie, and the South Carolina spring game was on, and I was going to sit down and watch for a second. So I really don't need to scout it because we're not playing. So it's the first time since 1991. Of course, Gamecocks came in the SEC in 92, and but before that, Georgia and South Carolina had played basically every year from the 70s through the 80s. So it's going to be very strange not to have the Bulldogs and Gamecocks playing this coming fall.
Well, I can tell you we're not happy about it either. I mean, for proximity purposes, it's only 3 hours away, and even if you're going on the road, it's not that bad of a drive. So I don't get it, but hey, they pay. There's people that make more than us that make those decisions, unfortunately.
And I'm hoping with the schedule, they'll when it rolls over, and then we're not going to play in 25 either because they're flip-flopping what it is this coming year. So my guess is when the new TV contract comes up and it's a total redo, my guess is you're going to see a 9-game SEC schedule, and it'll be a pods-type model, and you'd probably see, say, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and Kentucky in a 4-team pod, and we'd play every year. Again, that's just perfectly happy.
Every one of these power conferences should play non-conference games.
But I do agree. I think it's dumb and lazy that we just flip the schedule for 25 and say, hey, you're just going to pay the same 8 teams just home and away.
I just bought time. I really believe Greg Sankey was surprised in the pushback he got to go to 9 games.
Probably.
And usually Sankey finds a way to get everybody together and doing what's best.
I'm Greg Sankey. I'm the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Do you know who you're talking to?
You know who I am, right? And it didn't work.
I could have you disappear. You know that, right? That's how much pull I have in this game.
You know, I got
Mr. Mouse.
You ever heard of a guy named Jimmy Hoffa?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what happened.
I don't care if you are Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey. Minnie will be going, where'd Mickey go? Don't make me do that to your family, Mick. I really think Greg was stunned with the pushback, especially from like Bama.
Sure.
And some other schools he didn't expect it from.
Sure.
And we know Kentucky doesn't want non-conference games because Mark Stoops likes that. He likes his bowl games.
That's right.
That's right.
Keeps people occupied until basketball.
Yeah. So when the TV contract sets right and you get your TV money, you'll have a 9-game conference schedule. Asia Wilson, Vegas Aces. Want to go see them? We'll give you an opportunity here in just a second to give us a ring at 803-404-6100. Let's pop that cool fancy sounder when you guys, when you're ready to rock and roll. Hit that baby. We'll give away some tickets for Saturday, 1 o'clock, CLA.
Call now for your chance to win tickets to go check out Asia Wilson and the defending champion Las Vegas Aces take on the Puerto Rican national team. Caller number 6 wins from the game.
All right, call right now, 803-404-6100. Firehouse Subtext of the Hour is next here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford along with you here on The Game. Wrapping up hour number 2. It is indeed time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour, 803-404-6100. Nameless texter going to weigh in and says, I think if Lenoris can perform well on a consistent basis and avoid ups and downs by becoming emotionless while confident, something can be said about Beamer and his philosophy he may be applying on his quarterbacks and becoming mentors for them. I look at Rattler and think what made him so great with us is his mentality and how he never seemed flustered despite what pressure he was under. I think that's a good point to bring up. When you look at Lenore Sellers, and yes, he's, 18, 19 years old. I'm not sure his exact age, but he's young going into his redshirt freshman season, and he's taking on a high level of responsibility, being named the starter coming out of spring, but the assumed starter when the fall rolls around, and that's a lot for certain guys. And I can say this as somebody that has sat in the studio with him for an hour a while back. This is back in December, I believe. Smart kid, good head on his shoulders, seems very level-headed, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, which I think are the qualities that you look for in, especially in a quarterback at this level. And that is an apt comparison, I would say, to make to Spencer, because he kind of kept a level head when he was here, despite when things went really wrong, even, getting sacked 9 times against a team like North Carolina or whatever it may have been. It, it never seemed to fluster him too much. And it seems that Lenore Sellers has a lot of those same qualities, and that can go a long way. And it'd go a long way from the standpoint of keeping the rest of your team calm. Because if you have a guy that at the helm that's running the ship and he's not freaking out, then hopefully the guys around him aren't freaking out as well. But I agree with you, Texter. I think Lenore Sellers, has that calm confidence about him that, should go a long way this fall.
And also, we're doing a little Twitter X poll like we like to do at 107.5 The Game. Poll question of the day. On threes, Cody Belair sees Gamecocks quarterback Lenore Sellers as a potential Heisman caliber dark horse candidate. What are your expectations for Sellers? Pump the brakes, 0 clue. Top 8 quarterback in the SEC. Good enough to go bowling, serious breakout season. Pretty even between pump the brakes, 0 clue, 32%. Good enough to go bowling, 31%. Serious breakout season at 21%. Top 8 quarterback in the SEC at 16%. So everybody's got a little love here. Got a comment. Look, I'd love for that to be the case, but at this point, we just don't know. We have to see the O-line, running backs, and receivers on the field with him first. I agree with that, obviously. This thing on offense, so many moving pieces and moving parts that you got to wait and see what's around him. But he has a ton of ability. So a lot of people are like, pump the brakes or good enough to go bowling.
Yeah.
So far, 170 votes. We only started this sucker about an hour and 15 minutes ago. So keep them coming.
And look, it's none of us here that are saying he's going to be a dark horse candidate for the Heisman. Nope. This is a national recruiting expert, somebody that's watched a lot more tape of Lenore Sellers coming through high school and what he did last season than most the average people in the college football landscape. So that does hold some weight. And again, do I think he's in that realm right now? I think it's too early to say, but if Cody Belair, who again does this for a living, thinks he's that good, then hopefully he lives up to that billing.
Here's what's good to know: that someone outside of our little burg, who might not be the most objective in the world, a guy who does national scouting for On 3, who's seen a lot of players, loves the potential of Lenore Sellers.
Right.
So that's what you can take out of the whole thing. So we appreciate the text, like always, on the Firehouse Subtext line 803-404-6100. Next hour, we're gonna start our spin around the SEC. We're gonna try to get every program in. Good luck. We're gonna try. We got a lot of time between now and.
Well, now we have 2 whole new schools to include in this as well.
Yeah, but we got plenty of time until SEC Media Days. So we're going to try to hit all the schools in the SEC, get a report on where the programs are after spring practice and spring games, and just see where everything's at as we get ready to move forward to the summer. We're going to start with our buddy Steve Russell at ESPN Gainesville. 2:15, Steve's going to hop on, just talk about what's going on. Obviously, Billy Napier, they got to do a lot better. I don't think that's a hot take at all. They got to do a lot better, or Billy's going to be the ex-coach at Florida.
That's right.
Because the leeway's gone.
Right.
There's got to be a much better product, wins with regard to wins with the Florida program in 2024 for Billy Napier. And we'll talk to Steve Russell about that at 2:15. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, is coming up. We're going to hear some from Mark Kingston talking about his team and this Georgia series. That's coming up next on the Halftime Show right here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. 2 o'clock here on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Time to see what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Again, you buy some Gamecock merch at Gamecock Traditions. Some of that will go to the Garnet Trust because Gamecock Traditions, now an NIL partner with the Garnet Trust. All right, big series tonight. That's what's trending at 2. First off, with South Carolina, Georgia at Founders, 7:45 pregame in Columbia and Myrtle Beach, 8 o'clock first pitch. Mark Kingston talked about a ton of stuff in his presser yesterday. One of the things, like the transfer portal's a thing, right? It happens. You've got guys coming in. We've had multiple transfers for the South Carolina baseball team that have stepped up. You know, we see what Brindling has done lately. Kennedy Jones has been really good, just to name a couple. Here's Mark Kingston. Let's go with the cut about the transfers thriving. That's cut 7, fellas.
Well, I think we recruited good players out of the portal, guys we thought would fit both on the field and in the locker room, and I think that's important. I think it's pretty well documented now that the culture we have right now is of hard working, but also we're going to allow you to have some freedom to be yourself and enjoy this process. So I think that's attractive to good players. They want to play in the SEC. They want to play at South Carolina, and then when they know that they're coming to a place that will be very accepting of them and welcome them in if they can help them win games, you know, I think it makes for a good combination. So I just think it's a combination of good players that now feel very comfortable and are playing very well.
I mean, look, this transfer portal thing's so tough too, Tyler, because you got to do all this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like NFL free agency where everybody's doing their due diligence and doing all this background stuff and learning this and learning that because they know guys are free agents. When a player hits a portal, it's on.
Well, if you haven't called the player within 5 minutes of them hitting the portal, you probably missed out.
Yeah, I mean, all you're doing is you're hoping that you can get a couple of words. Maybe you know a guy real quick that knows a guy who has some, intel on the player or whatever the case, and you jump in. A lot of times, like your coaching staff can help you. We hear these stories. Hey, coach, had this guy when I was here or there.
Yep.
He's a dog, man. Or, so... I'll never say that in real life ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It's so difficult. You're trying to find someone that fits your culture, that also helps you either add depth or fix a weakness, and you got to do that really fast. So it's tough. Sometimes you just swing and miss, right? You just do. But it feels like what South Carolina's brought in the portal, they've gotten some real love. All right, also Cole Messina, obviously. Things have gone really well for Cole here recently. SEC Player of the Week. He's been on a run, 15 of his last 25, if my memory serves me. I believe it's a 7-game hitting streak. Cole Messina has been rolling, and behind the plate, obviously defensive skills are looked at as some of the best in the SEC. Let's get to talking about Cole Messina. Let's grab that cut real quick, fellas. That's cut 5 on Messina's offense and defense.
Well, behind the plate defensively, he's been regarded as one of the best in the country all year, and I think that's warranted. He's done a great job of when he gets a chance of controlling the running game. He does a great job with, pitch framing when there are borderline pitches. And then offensively, I think his mechanics are just in a really good spot right now. I think he really has locked into where he needs to be and what his thought process needs to be, which leads to the right physical mechanics. And he's just in a really good spot right now, and hopefully that carries on through the end of the season.
Yeah, he's been cooking.
As of late, yes.
Yeah. Whew. And again, once they made this lineup tweaks, and it's gotten more offensive, so to speak. And Messina's kicked in. Gavin Casas, his numbers have gone up. Ethan Petrie's Ethan Petrie. We've seen what Brindling has done from the leadoff spot. Kennedy Jones got it back going again this weekend. Talmadge Lecroy's had a couple of good games. It's just going through the entire batting order. So it's got to keep going because Georgia can score. And you're going to have to outscore Georgia for 3 games. Again, tonight, 7:45 pregame, 8 o'clock first pitch, right here on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. A couple other stories that are trending because coming up here at 2:15, Steve Russell from ESPN Gainesville, we're going to get an idea what's going on with the Florida Gators after spring practice in the spring game. Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, former teammates at LSU, they've dropped a bet, Tyler. $10,000 bet on who's going to be the offensive rookie of the year.
Okay.
I'm going with Daniels. If I'm putting money on one of these two, like I got like $2 in my bank account, I'll go with Daniels.
Yeah, I'd probably side with you on that one.
I mean, Neighbors could have a phenomenal rookie season, but I'll go with Daniels. He's going to have more opportunities. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Interesting little story from ESPN. According to some expatriates, Julian Edelman and Drew Bledsoe were discussing the Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick reunion at the roast.
Did you get to watch this whole thing, by the way?
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
I've gotten about halfway through it.
How good is it?
Watching it. It's phenomenal. If you're a fan of good roasts, which there haven't been good ones in a while, this is like A level, like A++. There were no punches were pulled. They went there in every sense of the word.
Nice. Because, I mean, I love the Comedy Central roast back in the day.
Oh, this is even better.
Oh.
It's Netflix. It's uncensored. It's phenomenal.
No. So you tell me I got to hunker in? It's about 2.5 hours, right?
3 hours.
3 hours?
But it doesn't feel like 3 hours.
Okay. All right. Because I haven't got a chance to watch any of it yet. I had another buddy of mine last night. Well, I was talking to him on the phone. He goes, dude, have you seen this Netflix roast yet of Brady? I said, no. He goes, you got to see this thing. It's hilarious. So I'll have to delve into that this weekend. Yeah, Mother's Day. Hey, babe, really can't do stuff. I'm watching the roast. Sorry.
Watch with me.
Yeah, want to sit down? Happy Mother's Day. Watch Tom Brady get roasted. Well, according to Julian Edelman, Belichick and Kraft, like Belichick's in the back with like Gronk, Edelman, Drew Bledsoe, a few of the other expatriates, Randy Moss, and they're cutting up. And Bill's actually, being Bill, not Coach Belichick.
I saw Bill Belichick laugh like deep, like full body laugh at one of the jokes the other night.
Now, look, Bill hangs out with John Bon Jovi.
That's true.
Like in real life. I've heard from people.
He can be a little wild.
Yeah, people who know Belichick that have talked to me say that guy away from a press conference and that guy away from football, he's actually a good time.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Animal.
You put him in front of microphones in the media.
On to Cincinnati.
I think I talked about that earlier. We're just trying to win games.
No, we can't tackle anybody.
Do your job. So Belichick is sitting in the back with the expatriates, and they're cutting up and talking stuff and everything, and Bill's telling stories, and then Kraft walked in.
Uh-oh.
And the whole thing iced up big time.
Well, think about it. As a player, who are you going to have a better relationship with, your coach or the owner?
I mean, with Bill, it iced up with Kraft.
Oh, I see.
Not with the players, with Bill.
I see.
Because that big post on ESPN, the Krafts didn't do Bill any favors. Now, look, I get there's two sides to every story.
Sure.
Belichick comes off as a guy after a while would probably wear on you if you're the owner.
Sure.
But also, I'm guessing the way the Krafts started to react to Bill wasn't great either. And if it is true that Kraft's buds with Arthur Blank, and if Kraft really got on the phone and basically sabotaged Belichick, if I'm Bill and I know something, or I read that and I think I know something, am I going to walk up to Kraft and give him a big bro hug?
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't know if I can get past you screwing with my professional career. So, and if you're Kraft, maybe you don't want to see Belichick either.
It's a fair point.
So there might be a reason you have ice.
Well, I don't think when this move was being made at the end of last season, I don't think they foresaw the Tom Brady roast coming a couple months later.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
Hey, have you ever been in something like that and you have people who have had drama at a party or something and they show up together? It's uncomfortable.
Sure.
I mean, you try to have fun, or you just avoid it, right? You go, I'm going to go over here with my buds by the keg.
Right.
And so if these two just start throwing down in the yard, I'll go watch it, but I don't want to be part of any of this stuff.
Sure.
So you just kind of walk away from it. That's what these guys did. Like I think it was Bledsoe or Edelman said, yeah, I just walked away.
Yeah.
I won't be a part of this. Not at all.
I don't blame them.
No. And I did read that. Look, the one thing that I read about this whole relationship with Belichick and the Krafts, when the Krafts hired Belichick, and Bill gave the plan, they were so impressed they just backed up, and they just did a total hands off and let the hoodie run everything. But as things started to kind of unravel after Brady left, the Krafts were like sitting there going, "Wait a minute, well, what's going on now?"
Right.
And they wanted to kind of get a hold of the steering wheel a little bit again. And obviously, Bill's got the steering. Bill takes the steering wheel home.
Sure.
So that was the thing. And Bill, again, you can see Belichick being very stubborn. He wants to do things his way. I get it. It's been very successful.
Of course.
So the whole thing went down a bad road. And then recently, they all show up together. And again, if you've ever been in a party or a get-together with people who come in who might not, for whatever reason, be chummy with each other at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. I could see it. You might not remember. This is before your time. A guy played at LSU named Glenn Davis. Big baby. Glenn Big Baby Davis.
Okay.
Big dude. Was really good in college. Had some moments in the NBA where he was productive. But there's a reason he's called Big Baby. I'm just saying. But a very skilled guy for his size. Well, Big Baby was sentenced by a federal judge on Thursday to 40 months in prison plus 3 years supervised release for his November 2023 conviction and alleged scheme to defraud the league's health care benefits plan.
Ooh.
More than 20 people, including numerous former players such as Terrence Williams and Keon Dooling, have been sentenced in this case for filing false medical claims with the NBA Players' Health and Benefit Welfare Plan. Davis was ordered to pay $80,000 in restitution as well. So basically, they were playing the system, right?
Yep.
And got caught. I mean, people actually investigate this stuff.
Totally.
I remember there was a guy, when I worked in Youngstown, there was a dude who lived across the street from me, nice guy, got hurt at work, right? And got workman's comp and a big settlement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, like, we were sitting around and we were going to play, like, some guy in his backyard had, like, a volleyball net and all this stuff. So we'd go play a little volleyball, go have some fun.
Yep.
And it was all sober, obviously. And we asked him to play once, and he said, no, I can't play. Why? And he goes, they're watching.
Oh, yeah.
Who? Them.
Somebody's sitting out there with a car at the end of the street with the camera.
Just waiting. He makes one spike or one set or whatever.
You were too injured to go to work, but you can play drunk volleyball with your friends in the backyard?
Guess what?
Interesting.
Don't be counting on those monthly checks to be showing up anymore. You ever heard of the word fraud, fella?
But, I mean, he's not wrong. That's how it happens.
And obviously, the investigators found out these guys were playing the system for a pretty good amount. I mean, think about it. Davis has got to give back $80,000 in restitution.
Yep.
Just saying. All right, one final note real quick. Indiana Pacers have submitted 78 instances of incorrect or non-calls in the NBA. They felt put them at a disadvantage in games 1 and 2 against the Knicks. Again, the officiating has not been very consistently good in this series at all. It hasn't. And have the Pacers been hosed a couple times? Sure. The Knicks can also push back on, hey, how about this and that with us? Here's where an official missed this or missed that. Indiana's not down 2-0 because of the officiating. It's because of Indiana. But Rick Carlisle pulled a very interesting card of, hey, small market teams deserve a chance to win too. He pulled the card. The Knicks are in the number 1 media market in the country. The Pacers aren't.
That's right.
The NBA, what he's not saying is this, the NBA would love to see the Knicks advance.
The ratings in the next round would be higher because the Knicks are in it as opposed to the Pacers.
Because who are they going to play in the next round? The Celtics.
That's right.
In the Eastern Conference Finals. Those ratings a little bit higher than the Celtics and the Pacers. That's what Rick Carlisle's saying, what he's not saying.
Right.
But that's what he means.
Right.
Which is interesting. Look, I think plus officials get intimidated. The Garden, when the Knicks are good, the Garden's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And officials are human. But that's not why Indiana's down 2-0. Indiana's down 2-0 because New York, the Knicks are making plays late in games and the Pacers aren't. It's very simple.
Right.
We could go into a lot of detail about it, but I won't bore you. Plus, we only got 10 seconds left in this segment. But that's why Indiana's down 2-0, not the officials. All right, we'll get back in here. Steve Russell, ESPN Gainesville, going to give us a little report on what's going on with the Gators after spring practice and the spring game. That's next here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and Corey's here helping out, too, on the game.
What's wrong?
Well, I was out driving today and I saw some hookers on the side of the road. A bunch of huge, professional, beautiful-looking hookers. So I did what I was supposed to do. I slowed down and I moved over.
You slowed down for the hookers?
Well, yeah, it's the law.
All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. What's trending at 2 is, well, all the spring games are over. Spring practice through the SEC is done. So we're going to be hopping around the conference, getting some dirt and lowdown and information about all these different programs and where they're at now that we're in a talking season. We get our buddy Steve Russell, ESPN Gainesville. Now, Steve, I appreciate you jumping on. You're on your day off. You're sitting on the Russell family yacht on Russell Island, and I appreciate you taking time for us, my friend.
Yeah, I got to take a little break here, but for you, my friend, anything.
Thanks, boss. Hey, I was kind of looking over some of the stuff from spring practice and the spring game in Gainesville. First of all, Billy Napier still have a job? Is he okay for right now?
He's okay for now, yeah. Matter of fact, it's really weird. The spring game before this one was just a snoozer, and it was really bad. And I think they really tried to make it a bit more entertaining. But, yeah, he's got a job today so far, yes.
I'll keep checking Twitter to make sure. The spring game, yeah, a lot more excitement. Everything I saw was about Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway both throwing the rock all over the place. 1917 was the final or whatever. So a lot more exciting, I guess, from the eyeballs for the fans. It seems like everything's about the two quarterbacks, though. First of all, Graham Mertz, look, it's just spring, but this is Mertz's second year at the controls. And he had a good year last year, Steve, and that gets lost in all this negativity. I thought Mertz, just from numbers and the eye test when he was here playing South Carolina, had at least a solid season.
I think he had a really solid season. And if you looked at the Gator offense in general, it wasn't particularly good the first half of the year, but my eyes told me it was a lot better in the second half, and Mertz was really solid. He's not going to wow you. He's not going to, oh, wow, look at that throw kind of guy. But he's solid. He knows the offense. He knows where to put the football. He doesn't turn the ball over. And now you have Lagway, who's got, all the physical tools in the world. He zipped a couple of balls in there in the spring game that were really impressive. Billy Napier has not said whether or not Lagway would have a series of plays to play in a game if needed. It's kind of like Chris Leak and Tim Tebow back in the day when people knew Tim Tebow and they gave him a series of plays. I don't know that they'll force feed that, but the way Lagway played in the spring, it's going to be kind of hard to keep him off the field depending on the situation with his skill set.
halftime show, hanging out with our buddy Steve Russell from ESPN Gainesville as we were getting a little insight on Florida after the spring game and spring practice. All right, so Lagway, like you said, a ton of physical ability, especially the first half of the spring game from what I'm reading was phenomenal. How geeked up is the fan base in Gainesville for DJ Lagway?
Very. But you know, one thing that I think has happened here, and I'm really glad of it, Gator Nation's really responded to Graham Mertz. He's done everything right. He's been great with fans. He's great with media. I think fans respect the way that he plays. So while there is a lot of excitement for Lagway, it isn't like, well, you know, Lagway needs to play and sit Mertz down because he has all this ability. No, I think let's get Lagway in there if he can. But Mertz is our guy. Players love him. Coaches love him. He's done a really good job ingratiating himself into the fan base.
Steve, let's hop on over to the defensive side of the ball. One name that Carolina fans know pretty well is obviously Pup Howard, who transferred over there this past offseason. Just kind of skimming some depth charts, it seems like he's worked his way into potentially being one of those starters in the middle of the defense. What have you heard about Pup Howard coming away from spring ball?
Very impressed with him. The coaches really loved him. They think he should be a starter in game one. But obviously, you know, defensively, the Gators had a lot of work to do. They weren't very good again last year, but they went out. You know, it's funny. They don't have a lot of guys in the portal, but they got some key guys, and they got a couple of defensive backs in the portal, Asa Turner being one of them from Washington. So I think he's going to help there a little bit. They got the Bridges kid from Oregon. I think they're going to plug and play them right away. They get Justice Boone back, who was hurt last year, who's going to be a starter on the defensive front. So, and a brand new guy running the defense, even though Armstrong's still there. You have a veteran guy that's been his mentor. So, look, guys, the defense can't be worse than it was last year. It can't. So it's going to get better. But I do think it's going to be a lot better. I don't know, but I think respectable. And if it's respectable with an offense that I think is going to be pretty good, I think Florida's going to win more games than some people think they're going to win.
All right, Steve Russell, ESPN Gainesville, Billy Napier, and we'll ask you again later on in the offseason when we get you back. Right now, as you sit on the Russell family yacht on Russell Island on your day off, what's the number of W's Billy Napier has to pull not to be the ex-head coach in Gainesville after the 2024 season?
They got to go 500. I just think if you fall below that, and if you fall below that, then there better be some close games against good teams where the fan base senses hope. But if you go, 4-8, or you just collapse like that, and you make the same kind of special teams errors, defense isn't any good, he won't be around. But I can tell you this. The administration doesn't want to go out and find another coach again. First of all, who do you hire? That's number one. And number two, you're back in this cycle again of rebuild. And Florida's had a history, fellas, of hiring up-and-coming coaches. That certainly worked in some cases, but it hasn't in others. But they want to ride this out. They're going to give Napier time as long as it doesn't collapse here this season.
Steve, the whole Jaden Rashada thing happened, and it made kind of like the Florida, collective, NIL, whatever scene. It kind of didn't shine very positively on it. But you're there every day, and obviously this NIL thing is a thing that's always going to be a thing until, we switch to the next thing, which will be the, schools paying players or whatever. What is the NIL situation like in Gainesville?
I'll go back to a few months ago. It wasn't very good at all. And the reason, among many, it wasn't good is because there was, from what I'm told and people I've talked to within the athletic department, there was a real split in the hierarchy between those that wanted to embrace NIL and those that couldn't stand it. And because of that split, because there just wasn't the effort, the all-out effort behind getting behind NIL, Florida was very slow to react. Now with this Gator Collective, I'll give you I won't name the coach, I actually was asked by a coach to MC an event for his donors that strictly dealt with NIL, to educate them about NIL, how much they needed NIL money to compete now in the athletic world that we're in. That's where it was at. I sense it's better now than what it was, but they're still playing catch up. They've been playing catch up almost since day one.
Steve Russell hanging out with us on his day off. We appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for spending some time. And the typical check will be in the mail, just like always.
Yeah, I'm on the yacht. I'm going to spend it already, man.
Thanks, man. We'll talk to you down the road, Steve. We appreciate you, bud. Okay. All right, that's Steve Russell from ESPN Gainesville. We'll come back because today's May 9th.
Greatest day in the history of the world.
Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Next on the halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Corey's here. We're hanging till 3 on the game. Oh, greatest day in the history of the world here on the Halftime Show, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. All right, there's some interesting stuff today, Tyler.
Right.
First of all, in 2018, I know you're a huge fan of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
Of course.
Who doesn't like the Lehigh Valley Phantoms?
You see my room. It's decorated from ceiling to floor.
Nothing but Phantom gear?
Nothing but Phantom gear.
Well, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms beat the Charlotte Checkers 2-1 in the longest game of the 82-year American Hockey League. Ready for this?
Yes.
6:48 of the fifth overtime.
Wow.
Is when the goal got scored.
Now,
add that up.
In real time, how long did that game take?
Well, let's see. You have your 3 periods. Usually there's 10 minutes between periods, or is it, I believe.
Hold on. And you said this was the Phantoms and the Checkers?
Yep.
See if I can get an actual time on that.
From 2018. If you went 5 overtimes, I mean, of game time, it's 1, 2, 3. Wow. That's got to be almost a 6-hour game.
Let's see.
Off the top of my head. Between 5 and a half.
So there's an upload on YouTube of the entire game, 6 hours and 18 minutes.
Oh, jeez. And of course, the longer this goes, and if you're there, obviously you're staying and you're invested.
Sure.
If that was actually on TV, which we know it wasn't, most likely, I mean, you've got to stay. At some point, you have to just stay, right?
Exactly. You're not gonna be able to see it any other way.
Yeah, you're locked in.
I went to a 6-hour Braves game one time.
Really?
It was on a Sunday. They were supposed to start at 1. They were playing the Astros. Supposed to start at 1, got rain delayed to like 3, and the game legitimately took until 9 o'clock. Mark Teixeira hit a sac fly in the bottom of the 17th to win.
I went to an Oriole Blue Jay game. First or second year at Camden Yards was like that. It was some rain delays. They even got to the point where they were talking about, the curfew rules. The curfew rules were coming up. The game has to end by, 1 or 2 a.m.? I can't remember now the curfew rules at the time.
Sure.
The game ended like 10 minutes for the curfew.
Wow.
Because of the rain delay. It was nuts. Thing went forever.
The game that I was at, it held the record for longest game in Turner Field history until, I want to say 2018 in a game against the Pirates or somewhere along those lines. So it's a record that stood for a while.
It's 5 overtimes in the AHL.
And like the deeper you go into overtime, the more thrilling the victory is and the worse the defeat becomes. Because you've, waited out this long, and to lose after 6.5 hours.
The defeat is misery.
Oh, it's awful.
It feels like 5 losses.
Now, maybe because you're so exhausted, you just fall asleep and forget about it, but.
2010, Dallas Braden pitches the 19th perfect game in Major League history. 4-0, the A's beat the Rays. You remember that? And Braden become an analyst. I think on the Oakland A's games. He was an MLB analyst for a little bit. The best story about that, his mom, because I think growing up, and he brought his mom out after the game, and they celebrated. It was a cool story with Dallas Braden. Here's one, 1999. Marshall McDougal hits 6 consecutive home runs in a game for Florida State, knocks in 16 runs, obviously NCAA records. Florida State dismantled Maryland 26-2 in a college baseball game. In that game, McDougal went 7 for 7 with those 6 homers, 16 RBIs, 25 total bases.
Wow.
That's nuts. You're figuring this guy must have had a hell of a career. No, not really.
That was his one moment of fame.
Well, his professional career was college. Well, he had a great college career.
Yeah.
Professionally drafted by the Oakland A's in the 9th round of the 2000 draft. With the A's till 2002 in their organization, traded to the Indians in a deal for Ricardo Rincon, who was actually a longtime Major League reliever. Bounced around there with the Indians, and then was drafted Rule 5 by the Rangers. Played in the Ranger organization, made his Major League debut June 2005, released in 2006. Played in the Dodgers organization and the Padres. Basically, the only time he got to the majors was that short time with the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a 9th round pick. So professionally, nothing special, but as a college player, he was really good. And that one day, he did
historic. Enough in the pros to get the major league money. That's all that matters.
That's what matters. Hey, just hang out long enough.
That's right.
That's all you got to do.
As long as you make the show, That's your
all
money
you
going
gotta do.
forward.
That's right. A couple of notes from my Baltimore Orioles. On this day in 1987, Eddie Murray became the first switch hitter ever to hit home runs from both sides of the plate in consecutive games. My favorite Oriole of all time, by the way.
Yeah.
Eddie Murray. Don't start me on the 1983 MVP award he got hosed. By his own teammate, Cal Ripken. All right, and the other one, now my dad loved this dude. And again, this happened before SportsCenter, so maybe it's not real. But 1961, my dad loved this guy. Jim Gentile was the first baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. Hit consecutive grand slams in the first and second inning of a game. Hit a grand slam in the first inning, grand slam in the second inning of the same game.
I wonder if that's been replicated since.
No, I don't believe. 1961, Jim Gentile. I think he hit 40 bombs that year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Old Dean Ford loved himself some Jim Gentile.
Sure he did.
So that's the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Big game tonight here on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. 7:45 pregame, 8 o'clock first pitch with South Carolina and Georgia. Mark Kingston speaking to the media and was asked a ton of stuff. One, about stats and, you know, how that goes in figuring your lineup. South Carolina now has, 5 guys hitting over 300, I believe, in the lineup. Some guys getting their OPSs over 900 or in the neighborhood of 900. So here's Mark Kingston talking about stats and how they're taken into account when putting together a lineup.
Yeah, 300 is kind of the old-fashioned number of, hey, when a guy hits 300, you know he's a good hitter. And I still place value on that because it is hard to get hits, you know. And we've gone back and forth in the Moneyball era of batting average means nothing. It's all about on-base percentage. And then you have OPS. Then you have OPS plus. And there's a million different NASA stats that they have out there. But I still think there is some value to just the 300 hitter because the ability to get hits is hard. And when you face teams that throw strikes, on-base percentage tends to go down because you don't walk as much. So the ability to get hits can be important. So all that is to say that it's nice having 300 hitters, you know, throughout our lineup. But on-base percentage still is important. Slugging percentage is still important. It's all still important. Batting average with runners in scoring position. Getting runners in with a runner at third and less than 2 outs is important. What are your left-right splits? Those are important. All those things are important. And at the end of the day, you want to have 9 guys that feel like they all complement each other. We've gone to the right, left, which I think has really helped us. And so all those factors matter.
In a perfect world, 1 through 9 all have high batting averages, high on base percentage, and high slugging percentage, right?
Right.
That's a lineup you want. 300, 400, 500 splits. It's not the way it works, unfortunately.
No, the law of averages suggests otherwise.
And look, and I think what Coach says there, yeah, there are going to be games where you go up against high-level pitchers who are throwing strikes, and it's difficult to, A, work a count, or B, walk. And in those type of games, you got to hunt your pitch. You get a pitch that you hunted. You got to barrel it and do damage when you get that pitch because they might be few and far between in games like that.
Right.
So I do agree. And at the end of the day, we've discussed this. You want dudes with high on base percentage batting the top of your order because scoring runs is what matters. And I don't know, Tyler, help me. The more guys you have on base, the more chance you have of scoring runs.
You would think.
You would think. And then obviously slugging percentage matters because you want dudes in the middle of the lineup who have extra base power and can do some serious damage.
Right.
So, yes, all those things matter a ton. But I won't lie, I look at on-base percentage and slugging percentage first these days. But I do look at batting average right after that because there is a value of a guy that can put a bat on the ball and get you a hit. So I know where Mark's going, and the splits are a thing, and everybody likes righty, lefty, righty in a perfect world, but sometimes it's just not a perfect world, and you got to just go the best way you can to be productive.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back in here. Our Firehouse subtext of the hour at 803-404-6100. Also, we'll check our Twitter X poll. Might even yap with Jay Phillips for a little bit as well before we get to the post-game show. Halftime show with Terry and Tyler. Also, Corey's here helping out on the game.
So, let me ask you this.
Time to get our Firehouse sub text the hour here in just a second. 803-404-6100. Terry Ford, Tyler's here. Corey's here. Jay Phillips is here.
It's good to be back on the Tyler Head Sports Experience.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I like it when Tyler
You're always a welcome guest.
lets me on the sports experience, too. It's nice.
Now, with Jay being out as much as he has recently, I thought that a post-game show was going to become the Elijah Campbell Sports Experience.
I'm back. You're stuck with me for a while now. Everything's
over.
good.
It's all vacation
the
days.
trip, the Hilton Head thing, we covered the Heritage, so that one's out of the way. Took a few days off in the mountains, and like I said to you last week,
unfortunately, couldn't stay in Asheville. You
had
came
a beer
back.
or two, and that was nice. And the daughters graduated, so that's.
By the way, it's so funny. Whenever one of us degenerates down here dresses up, the whole world gets kooky.
Yeah.
Because you had your suit and tie on because you were going to graduation last Thursday.
I had a thing.
And
you remember when I had a meeting out of the office, and our big boss here, I'm sitting in Terry's office, and our general manager comes in, and she was convinced for a few minutes that I was like going on a job interview somewhere. And I was like, no, I just got a meeting, but I needed to look nice.
That's the radio thing.
The look she had on her face, which made me feel kind of good because she was like,
Phillips is gone.
Yeah, like I think she was like, oh, well, I don't want you to leave.
It wasn't like, can I drive you to your job interview?
Yeah, no, right. Except, that
Can
could
I
have
help
been.
you?
It could have been.
Can I go in and you'll be a reference for you? If you need a reference, let me know.
Right, good luck.
Because really what we do, the old saying in our business, if you got a suit and tie on in radio, job interview, funeral, wedding.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So whenever you come in dressed up, everybody looks kooky at you in radio.
If I'm,
Well, you did that little thing too. You did the Kaylin from B106, our sister station, was doing a little video mock-up thing for the stations.
Yeah.
And that's the day you were in the suit and tie.
Yeah.
And she interviewed you
Bonus.
real quick. And she came upstairs, she goes, oh my God, he looks so professional. He had a suit and tie on. And I'm like, yeah, he was going to a job interview.
I was even told that went well, so that's good.
It went really well.
That's good.
You did really, give me some of that, by the way. You did a fine job on that thing. You did well. They got to me and
broken clock is right twice a day.
Exactly. They got to me and they was like, that didn't go well. Just the shine on my head kept taking the video.
Sure.
It kept screwing it up. All right, Firehouse subtext of the hour. What do you got there, Tyler?
All right, Skills writes in, says, I went to a 16-inning game against the Reds and Indians in the Old Red Stadium. Griffiths in center fields, those good Indian teams with Omar Vasquez. Omar had a squeeze bunt in the 16th inning to give them the 2-1 lead, and the Indians ended up winning. They obviously quit selling beer after the 6th inning.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and that if they didn't, that would have been massive ugliness.
You know what? When a game goes to like the 11th, they should reopen beer sales.
For it to immediately end the 12th.
Yes.
Yeah. Like one, the 11th inning is the bonus inning.
You mean beer bonus?
Yeah. They should even give you free beer at that point.
Well, think about it.
Everybody come up now. One free beer right now.
Because the funny part is, obviously they stop beer sales to make you sure, hopefully you sober up for the ride home. By the 11th or 12th inning, it's gone.
Who cares?
It's gone.
Yeah.
Those Indian teams were good. Omar Vizquel, Albert Bell, Manny Ramirez, Robbie Alomar. At some point, no, that wasn't that team. That was a different team. But Cleveland had some players. Jim Thome.
Yeah. Oh, Thome, man.
That squad was loaded at that time in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they won 0 World Series. Got to 2.
They went to 2.
And got 0.
I think they
were favored against the Braves.
They lost to the Marlins.
Lost to the Marlins in 7.
Yeah.
And were favored against the Braves. Remember that Indian team? That was a strike year.
They played the Braves?
Yeah. Yeah, I know you didn't remember that.
That's good.
They went like 150 or something, or 145.
Yeah,
or
there were 140-something games that season.
They were a phenomenal team. Bell got robbed out of the MVP because the media hated him.
Sure.
Gave it to Mo Vaughn.
Sure.
And that Brave team, that's the only time I think, well, besides that last Yankee series with the Braves, every other World Series, I think the Braves were favored.
Probably.
But not favored against the Indians and won that series.
4 games to 2.
You don't really remember much about it, do you?
David Cloninger and I were ranking Brave home runs, singular home runs, not like home run hitters, not sluggers. Home run number 1, Braves history, Hanks, 715.
Sure.
Home run number 2, Braves history, Dave Justice's solo shot, Game 6, in a 1-0 win.
Yep.
Number 3 was the Jorge Soler shot in the last World Series that landed about a week and a half ago.
The first one I was live to see, by the way.
And
thanks for rubbing that in there, young guy. We appreciate that.
And the fourth one was Rick Camp's home run in the 18th inning.
Oh my God! How
4th,
iconic was that? I watched that on the Superstation back in those days.
That was like 2 a.m., dude. 1985.
I was still awake. I was
18th inning.
I came across that video on Super 70 Sports a couple weeks back.
I'm gonna tell you what. I was awake because again that's summer, so there was no school night.
Right.
And I actually was watching that thing at 2:00 in the morning.
Rick Camp, man. Who's I think his number was 37, and I'm not lying. I think that might have been his career batting average.
Oh yeah, that's what made it so great. Because he couldn't hit.
Hell, he was just up there. He was just swinging the bat.
They were out of guys.
And the Mets just threw. Dude was just lobbing him down the gut. Like, well, he's going to strike out.
The call is so good.
Yeah, that's John Sterling.
Yes, the call is so
good. It was that John was with the Braves team for about 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah,
before then he went to New York.
And I like the Braves version of John Sterling. This Yankee thing, I've never been a big
John
fan
then
of,
was 40.
Yeah.
30 something.
Yeah.
So,
that was a great crew.
Yeah. Oh man.
That Brave broadcasting crew.
I still nothing against anybody, but man,
that was a good crew, man.
That's a good stuff.
That was
Pete, Ernie, Skip, John, Daryl Cheney for a little bit. Then Don Sutton came on board.
Yeah, they were so good.
Quality.
So good. So I like that. Camp's in there. Yeah, that Justice.
That's number 4. I don't even know what number 5 is. Maybe the day Bob Horner hit 4, like the 4th one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what my favorite was the big brawl with the Padres and the Braves the 80s.
That was scary, dude. Pascual Perez, that was scary.
That was nuts. Remember Horner and Champ Summers bowed up on each other. And Champ Summers looked like a bouncer.
Well, Horner kind of was too. Man.
Yeah, Horner and those two just kind of. I thought that was on.
Yeah.
That was my favorite brawl ever. It just didn't stop.
Good stuff.
All right, man.
Talking NIL, the new NIL law passed today. We'll talk about that coming up.
All right, post-game show's coming up. Tyler, Corey, nice job. We'll talk to you tomorrow.